Okay, let's try to make things really easy and do a couple demonstrations. Be fundamentals video. Here we have, just forget about the spin direction for 1 second. Whether the North Pole is going clockwise or counterclockwise. And remember, I'm not showing centripetal convergent fields on this demonstration. I'll do one thing one time, make things so complex for people to understand. So look, these both look the same. Here we have our North Pole, and here we have our South Pole. Here's where space is such a great mental screw. It's C-R-E-W. Now, let's separate them, and you see the S is reversed. And here we have our North Pole, and the space in between would be the volume of our magnet. So, now let's spread them apart a little bit so you can see what's going on. One pole is going clockwise, the other pole is going counterclockwise. Wait a minute, this pole looks like it's going this way, but if we turn it over this way, now this pole looks to be going the same direction as the other pole did. Now let's take a look really quick at something here. If you take any little spot, any little white spot here, and you watch it and you're able to trace it, this hypertrophic pattern as we see in our ferrocells, you'll see as we diverge out that any little white spot will eventually take you to the outer edge. And if we work in reverse, this is avoidance, or what you incorrectly call attraction. Any little white spot will take you right to the center. Now, you see this hypertrophic pattern, just one little portion of which looks like a daisy petal? This is destroying space. This is counter-avoidance of the dielectricity of the magnet. What you refer to as attraction is dielectric avoidance. Magnetism and dielectricity are conjugate. They move opposite to each other. Magnetism is spatial, is radiative, as Faraday called it, the dielectric field. So this is destroying space, and this is creating space. Here we have polarization. Now look what we have here. We have identical rays all in the same direction. You notice I flipped my south over because now the S is inverse. So this would be two like poles trying to come together, what you would call repulsion. Now notice the little arrows, the little hand-drawn arrows in the center. This is counter-avoidance. This is where space meets space. This is where you need to understand that space is the flies buzzing around the horse poop, and you need to understand that a magnet is not a magnet. Well, what does that mean? That sounds like something an insane person in a padded room would say. Well, what that means is that dielectricity is driving the magnet. Magnetism is radiation. It is polarization by definition. Okay, now here we take our volume, and let's make this one pole of our magnet, and let's make this the other pole and the sphere. The sphere is our physical magnet. Now this is moving the physical magnet. Fields don't see physical movement. The movement of space has nothing to do with the movement of fields. When these magnets are created either by induction or by cap bank discharges into coils to increase the dielectric capacitance, the field is locked into place. Obviously I can reverse the polarity on a soft ferrite magnet very easily, as I showed you in another video. But the way the fields move and the way the physical magnets move are two wholly different things. This is where people get things confused. Now remember, this is our South Pole, so let's face it outwards. Remember, we have our air as the volume of our magnet, and here we have our North Pole. As you can see, our South Pole, our S is inverted over here. That's because it's on the opposite side. So when people do electrical experiments and other experiments, they say, well, look, one field's moving the other way. The other field's moving clockwise. And then they wonder why they get mysterious results when they move the magnets and the magnets move opposite to the direction of motion. Well, physical motion is not field motion. What you're looking at now is field view. Now let's look at Spatial view. I'm physically moving the magnet. Nothing's changed. It's moving space, as the Greeks monas, nous, chaos, chael. Monad, nous, space, and matter. Space is posterior to fields. There are no such things as fields expanding into space. There are only space as radiative, necessitative, posterior attributes of fields. So let's look at that again. Pretend we took the magnet apart and we're looking at both faces of the single magnet. Don't those look identical to you? This looks exactly like this, but this says North Pole. F is for face. This looks like the South Pole. So these look the same. Oh, wait a minute. These look the same. Let's reconnect our magnet again. North Pole here, S is inverted. Now let's show field movement. Now just imagine there's a singular body between these two planes. Our expanding radiative sphere, which is exactly what's happening. You have a single point, radiation charge coming into discharge, expanding out. How does nature radiate? Oh, it looks like this side's going clockwise, the other side's going counterclockwise. Well, let's flip it around. Oh my, now it looks like this side's going clockwise. This side's going clockwise and the other side's going counterclockwise. Yes, that's right. That's the great wonderful thing about space that tricks everybody. Remember, this is just one little fraction of our hypertrophoid pattern here. As you can see, I drew out just 5 points, but you can see the beginnings of hypertrophoid here. This is spatial avoidance, what you call attraction. This is dielectricity, attracting dielectricity. What you call magnetic repulsion is based upon magnetism, not dielectricity, because dielectricity cannot come into avoidance when there is polarization. These are two like poles, quote unquote, coming together. Now look at the hypertrophoid pattern in the middle. Our little arrows here. They don't exist. Now, instead of a daisy petal pattern, we have 10 little rays going off in the same direction, and we have polarization here. These ends of the magnet are unable to meet. This is where space meets space. We're saying magnetism meets magnetism. Well, dielectricity is driving and powering the magnet. Magnetism is radiation definitionally. So let's bring it into avoidance, dielectric avoidance. Remember, you take any single little white spot here, and if we draw it together, you'll see that if you watch it long enough, it will come to the center. And radiation, let's just take that in reverse. Let me overlap one from the other so you can see what's happening. Okay, let's take a look at radiation so you understand it. Polarization is a great little mind bug that people have. Everybody has it because we're all empirical creatures living in the space-time bubble of fields upon fields upon fields upon fields. So let's imagine electrifying the pre-magnet, making all the dielectric inertial planes coherent and creating necessitative discharge. Increase the capacitance, increase the charge, you're obviously going to increase the discharge. That's like saying you can feed a horse 100 pounds of hay and nothing is going to increase on the other end. I love my cute little pathetic horse analogy. Now let's take a look at the expanding radiation. Remember, just the void in between here is our physical magnet, being driven by dielectricity. This is the radiative polarized. Polarized equals radiation equals the creation of space. Equals clockwise equals counterclockwise. Like I said, you can spin this pin any direction. I'm spinning it one direction. From this end it looks like it's going clockwise. From the other end it looks like it's going counterclockwise. Clockwise, counterclockwise don't exist. They're a mind perceptual error of spatial anomalies. Space is created necessitatively by polarized radiative fields. What gives massiveness to mass Has nothing to do with charge. It has to do with the discharge of that charge. What props up space, what gives space volume regarding anything made out of physical matter, is magnetism. Polarization equals space, equals massiveness, not mass as in matter, but massiveness. Not referring to the nucleus, but we're referring to the inner atomic radius in picometers. And trillions and trillions and trillions and endless trillions and trillions of those making up a magnet or anything else in the universe. So, let's look at radiation again. Polarization. As I said, you notice that as these are expanding, each little white spot will take you to the outside. I think I was actually turning it wrong about 10 seconds ago. This is what I get for making little videos about 1 o'clock in the morning. So let's take a look at radiation again. Creation of space, polarization, necessitated polarization from increased capacitance. Charge necessitates discharge. Let's look at counteravoidance. Here we have avoidance, or see our rose petal pattern, and our trochoid pattern, as you can witness in the ferrocells. Now let's look at counteravoidance, or what you refer to as repulsion. Now, instead of hypertrochoid pattern, we have 10 little rays, all going out in the same direction. Spatial polarization, this cannot come together. This is what you refer to as magnetic attraction, magnetic repulsion. But it's not magnetic repulsion, it's dielectric counteravoidance. And this is dielectric avoidance. Notice as I bring them together, each little white spot, if you follow it, will take you to the center. This is radiation. Each little white spot will take you to the outer perimeter. Avoidance. Coming together. Counteravoidance, discharge, radiation, polarization. Here is our magnet. If we just imagine the empty space between these two pieces as our physical magnet, here you see the polarization. Clockwise here, counterclockwise here. Let's just forget about the centripetal point. Right now we're just focusing on spin and polarization, what radiation definitionally means, and magnetism means, and that what is driving a magnet is not magnetism, it is dielectricity. So, this seems kind of banal, but I keep getting asked this question over and over and over and over again. Repulsion, counteravoidance. This is where space meets space. Here's avoidance. Notice our hypertrochoid pattern right in the center there, a little five-petaled daisy looking trochoid pattern. Any white spot will take you to the center. Now let's take a look at one last little thing here. Yeah, I know, moire patterns, right? Anyway, we have radial ether modalities, or dielectricity, which exists at every point, so it's not obviously in one direction, but is radial in every direction. Take two of those. Here we have our circular magnetism. Obviously it reciprocates in the physical object, and we also have gyromagnetic precession, but let's get them lined up right. Here we have polarization top to bottom, and here we have our dielectric inertial plane right here. Now this small movement, just imagine it as magnetic reciprocation. Centrifugal, centripetal, centrifugal, centripetal, dielectric inertial right here. Remember, dielectricity is radial, but it is radial in every direction. But it is centripetal, and radial. Therefore, we can't just use one line, which we could. It gives us a certain demonstration. We could just refer to this as polarization. But we need a separate grid at 90 degrees to give an accurate representation of dielectricity and magnetism in their conjugate nature of, remember from every other video and the book, inverse throw of two opposite fields in opposite directions, double hyperbola, and dielectric inertial plane. So let's take a look at both of those together by using 90-degree perpendicular grids to represent our dielectricity and our circular to represent our magnetism. And let me get them lined up perfectly. Actually, I have them at the wrong direction. It would be more accurate to show them this way. There we go. You think, well, that's kind of lame, you know, we're just using moire patterns here. I'm experimenting with a whole lot more than moire patterns behind the scenes, trust me. I'm so worn out from experimentation, I'm ready to drop. So, anyway, everybody kept asking this question. If you understand it, fine, other people don't, so cut me and cut them a break. And just to understand what we have here. Here's our magnet, and here is the polarization. See? Counterclockwise, clockwise. Let's ignore centripetal, which is opposite to the centrifugal. Let's just ignore that for a second, just to make things simple so people understand. Yes, there are two conjugate fields, two reciprocating fields on either side, centrifugal and centripetal, but we're not showing centripetal right now, just for demonstration purposes, so people can have a firmer grasp of what's going on. So, radiation, discharge. Two ways to create a magnet. Induction from a more powerful magnet to soft iron, discharge cap banks into coils, increased dielectric capacitance. Increased charge and increased discharge. Greeks, monas, nous, cheas, and chayil. Four principles. Charge, discharge, creation of space. Remember, this is avoidance. Get our hypertrophic pattern. This is space meeting space. Simple? Not really. We all have a problem with it because all empirical critters are living in space. Just so you understand that dielectricity and magnetism are the two co-principles of the universe, and they move 180 degrees opposite of each other. But in a binding system, they move a certain way. They move in a double hyperbola and a focused, directed, concentrated dielectric inertial plane. Focused at, not located at. Location and focused at, just like fluid dynamics, are two totally different things. I can say your house is located at, but I can refer to something as being focused at or concentrated at due to pressure gradient mediation, like certain pressures of air or water, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, I hope that was simple enough. Thanks for watching.